Haggadah is filled with questions and answers, and one of the questions and answers is between the father, the one who's running the Seder, and the different children who are asking. We know there's the Chacham, the Rasha, the She'enu Yodei Lishol, the Tam. And when the psukim are given of the answers that we answer, these various sons, there's a very, very strange diuk that Rav Yeruchum makes and others make in a Rashi here that I don't want to overplay it, but is probably one of the most amazing and greatest Torahs you'll ever hear in your life. Just don't want to overplay it. So the pasuk says, "V'higadet olavincha, bayomahu, lemor." This is what you should tell them. Ba'avur ze asa Adonai li b'tzeisimi Mitzrayim. That because of this, ba'avur ze, Hashem did these things for me when He took me out of Mitzrayim. This is what you tell the She'enu Yodei Lishol. You got to open up the conversation for him. Okay, the Haggadah tells us there's a little diuk to the Rasha. There also li, it happened to me. If you were there, it might not have happened. But Rashi says something very, very strange here. Ba'avur she'ekayem mitzvosav kegon Pesach matzah umarer halalu. So if I were to ask anyone in the crowd here, why is it that we have the mitzvah of eating matzah on Pesach? You might answer, it's to commemorate what happened in Mitzrayim. If I ask you, why is it that we have the mitzvah of Marer? You say it's to commemorate what happened in Mitzrayim. Vayimaru es chayehem ba'avodah kasha. If I were to ask you why it is that we have the Korban Pesach, you would tell me, because back in Mitzrayim, this is what we do, and we bring the Korban Pesach to commemorate that which happened back then. But Rabbi Yeruchum says, when you look at Rashi, that's Parshat not what Rashi says. Why do we have these mitzvos? The Torah says, Ba'avur zeh asa Hashem li. What's Ba'avur zeh? Because of this, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. What is this? What is the zeh? Says Rashi, Ba'avur she'ekayem mitzvosav kegon Pesach matzah umarer halalu. So we have it backwards. It's not that we eat matzah and we eat marer and we have the Korban Pesach because Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. Says Rashi, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim because of the mitzvos of Pesach, Matzah, and Marer. They're not commemorating what happened in the past. They're not, I'm eating a piece of matzah to remind myself what happened in Mitzrayim. All of you Mitzrayim happened so that I could have the mitzvah of Pesach, Matzah, and Marer. It's a complete mind shift of how we look at the mitzvos. And Rabbi Yeruchum quotes the Chassid Yavitz. The Chassid Yavitz has a comment on the Mishnah in Avos. The Mishnah says, Im ein derech eretz ein Torah. Im ein derech eretz. What does that mean? If there's no derech eretz, there's no Torah. Im ein Torah ein derech eretz. So what's the Mishnah coming to tell us? Says the Chassid Yavitz. She derech eretz bekan kipshuto min hago shel olam. What does it mean, the derech eretz? It's the way of the world. That's how you would translate it, the way of the world. Kemo, zriya, ktsira, shchiva, kima. What do you want when you want food? What do you have to do when you want food? You have to plant in the ground, and then you have to harvest it. What happens when you go to sleep? You go to sleep, you wake up. Binyan batim, achila, shtia, all the things that we do in the world, all of our worldly activities, they are all called derech eretz. And says the Chassid Yavitz, Ki lo bara Hashem yizbarach ela hadvarim kulam al ma shehem alav. He didn't create food because that's just how the world is. He didn't just create the fact that you go to sleep and you wake up, whatever it may be. Zulasi sheyuhu nosei haTorah. I want to explain that line. When we think, why is it that the Ribbono Shalom created the world? We ask that question often. We ask the question, why is it the Ribbono Shalom needed to create the world? He needed a melech. There's no melech below Am. We talk about these things around Rosh Hashanah time. But the question we very rarely, if ever, ask is, naniach that the Ribbono Shalom created the world. Okay, let's get past that question. Why did He create the world? Okay, He created it. But now that He did create the world, why did He create it in the way in which He did? There are an infinite possibility of ways, an infinite possibilities of how the world could have worked. It could have been that, you write a letter and food drops from the sky. Why is it that food grows from the ground? It could have been that all of a sudden you daven really hard and boom, there's a child. That's what happens. Why is it that it needed to be that there's a mother and a father and now you have a child? Why was the world created in the way that it is? Why all the different halakim of this world are the way they are? Says the Chassid Yavitz, Lo bara Hashem yisbarach ela hadvarim kulam al ma shehem alav. The Rebbeinu Shalom didn't just create a world, and he had a blank canvas. And he said, you know what? It would be really wonderful if this world had food. And the way that the people would, continue living in this world, the way that there will be nourishment is first, they are going to need to eat food, but how are they going to get the food? So should the food come from the sky? Nah, I'm going to make this interesting, interesting way of bringing about the food where you take a seed from food that already existed, and now you put it in the ground and you water it and you work it and you pray for rain and the rain comes down. I'm going to make this whole crazy wackadoodle way of getting food, and that's how a person's going to get food. The Rebbeinu Shalom didn't just say, you know what? Okay, so I'm creating Adam. Okay, I'll give him Chava. Lo tov heos Adam levado. But now, what about children? Is it just going to be Adam and Chava in the world? No, they should have children. So the way that the structure of the world is going to be, that there's going to be a mother and a father and a child. And now that child's going to find someone, and there's going to be another mother and father and child. Why is it that the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world in such a way? Says the Chassid Yavitz, Zulasi shiyuhu nosei haTorah. The only reason they are created is in order to carry and in order to bring about the Torah into existence. Says Rav Yeruchum, Hine, ki lo ba'u mitzvus haTorah l'sader minhago shel olam. We think that the Rebbeinu Shalom created a world, and now he gave us this wonderful Torah in order to, fix the world a little bit. People were running wild. Okay, so now we have the 10 Commandments. We have, people are killing each other. Okay, I'm going to make a rule, don't kill each other. People are stealing from each other. You know what? I'm going to make a rule, don't steal from each other. People are, damaging each other. So, okay, so now let's create above a mitzvah, above a kama, above a basar. Let's have, hilchos nezikin. What happens when damages, occur? It's the other way around. Elo lahafech. Kol habriya kula nivra be'ikr laseis haTorah. The entire world was created only for the Torah. Ki acharei sheyesh inyan v'sod shel Torah's kibud avim. You know why we have parents? So we always think, why do we have a mitzvah of kibud avim? Why is that? So he said, no, because Hashem created man and a woman, and then they have children, and then that child has to have a karsa tov to the parents for bringing them into the world. No. The question is, why did Hashem create parents to begin with? Because of the mitzvah of kibud avim. Which came first, the chicken or egg? That's really the question. We always think that the Torah came about to set gvul, to set, perimeters around the world to try and fix the world in the way that it needed fixing. Says Rav Yeruchum, it's the exact opposite. The Ribbon Shalom had in mind the mitzvah of Kibud Avim. So now when he created the world, there needed to be such a thing called parents. He had in mind the mitzvah of Shemitah. He had in mind the mitzvah of Orla, of Truma, of Meiser. So you know what there needs to be? There needs to be a system with which food comes out of the ground. It didn't happen that now food comes from the ground and pumped. We need to have a mitzvah to show that we're thankful to the Rebbe. It's the only reason the world is the way it is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world through the prism of Torah. The Zohar HaKadosh says the famous line, "Histakel be'oraisa ubara alma," that the Rebbe Shalom looked into the world, looked into the Torah, and created the world. Now we always think it's like a nice. How did the Torah came before the Pasha Pshat is this. It's that when the Ribbon Shalom wanted to create the world, the same way that any architect, before they build a house, first sketches the plans, first sketches what the world is going to look like, what it's going to be, and then they start building. They don't just build and then they say, it would be really nice if we made a living room over here. Okay, let's add that in here. Say, you know what? Maybe they want a pool. Okay, let's make some spot. That's a big architect. What an architect does is they plan everything merosh. They take the whole thing into account, the whole house, and now once they have the full picture, they start building. So the shot in the Zohar HaKadosh is exactly this. It's histakel ba'oraisa ubara alma. The Rebbeinu Shalom created the Torah. He created the pasuk kabed es avicha v'asimecha. So now, when it was time to create the world, he looked into the Torah and he said, there's such a concept called parents. I need to create that in the Bria. He saw the pasuk that said that for 6 years you should work the land, and on the 7th you say, it must be that the way to bring about food in the world is by working the land. That must be how food comes about. It has to be that there's some type of source in the Torah for now the world to be created. So now we look around at the world and we read the line of the Chassid Yavitz again. Zriya, Ktsira, Shchiva, Kima, Achila, Binyan, everything in this world is not created for its own purpose. It's created only Zulasi Shehu Nosei HaTorah. The whole purpose of the world is to carry along the Torah. The Mishnah in Abu says, Ben Bagwag Oimer, Hafachba, Hafachba Dekula Ba. That you just got to keep looking and keep learning and keep learning. You'll find everything in the Torah. And we always think about that story. We've all heard the story, the Chazon Ish. He sent instructions on how to do brain surgery. How did the Chazon Ish know how to do brain surgery? How did he send instructions to America with a note? I heard from someone who saw the letter that the Chazon Ish wrote to the doctor of giving them exact instructions how to do this brain surgery. How is it that the Chazon Ish knew how to do that? So we always say, it must have been some siyata d'shmaya. You learn a lot of Torah and Hashem just grants you with this. No. When the Rebbeinu Shalom created a person, when he created the way that the brain works, when he created the human being, histakel be'araisa ubara alma, there is absolutely no knowledge in the world. There is nothing that you will ever learn that is true emes that does not have its source in the Torah Kedosha. Hafachba v'hafachba dekula ba means that there is nothing you will ever find, no information you will ever need, no emes that can ever come out in the world that does not have its source in Breishis bara Elokim, es hashamayim es haaretz, and keep going. That is the source of everything in this world. So we go back to our pasuk. Ba'avur zeh asa Hashem li b'tzeisim mitzrayim. We ask the question, what does it mean? No, we have the Pesach Matzah and Maror because Hashem took us out of Egypt. But no, the Rebbeinu Shalom knew when he created the world that there was going to be a matzah called matzah. There's going to be a Pesach Seder. Going to be something in the Torah that was v'higadat levincha b'yom. You have to tell them there's Pesach, there's matzah, there's maror, there's all the mitzvahs, there's tashbisu, there's getting rid of the chametz. It was just for 1,000 years. It hadn't been brought out into reality. The Rebbeinu Shalom knew that there needed to be such a matzah called the Pesach Seder. He knew that there was going to be a Korban Pesach. So the Rebbeinu Shalom brings about history. He pushes the destiny of the Jewish people in a way to bring about the mitzvos that the Torah has commanded us. Histakel ba'araisa ubara alma. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's very clear. The Torah came first. The mitzvos came first. The reason why we have the mitzvos is for Yetzias Mitzrayim? No. The reason we have Yetzias Mitzrayim is for the mitzvahs. The Rebbeinu Shalom looked into the Torah. He created the world. The entire reason why the world is the way it is because the Torah is the framework for everything. Every single shred of emes you will ever come across in your life, hafachba v'hafachba dekula ba, it's all in the beautiful Torah HaKadosha.